gash in the head. So then I turned back and looked at him and said, "What did you do to my sister?"
Now at 5:30, a Good Samaritan jumped into action to help a kidnapping and rape survivor. But the path to justice ended abruptly after police say that suspect died by suicide after a 6-hour standoff with officers.
This is my last live. Might be the last time y'all see me alive. Kid in the house. Police got my house surrounded. I wish I was playing right now, but this is very serious matter. They stopped with the intercom and stuff outside because I told them to chill. Waiting on somebody to come pick my child up right now.
On August 29th, 2023, an event unfolded in Charlotte, North Carolina, that would leave residents stunned and horrified. A man once known locally as an aspiring rapper turned a quiet neighborhood into a stage for a chilling crime spree that ended in a violent standoff broadcast to the world. With police outside his door, his child inside the home, and the internet as his audience, 31-year-old Jeremy Keith Asbury live-streamed the final hours of his life. What began as a report of a sexual assault escalated into one of the most disturbing sequences of events the city had seen in recent years. This is a harrowing story of Jeremy Asbury, his rise, his downfall, and the tragic ending that shook an entire community. You're watching True Crime's Venue. Charlotte, often praised as a queen city, is the second largest banking hub in the country, defined by corporate skyscrapers, new development, and a fast-growing population. But beneath the skyline lies another reality. Charlotte has long wrestled with violent crime. In 2023, the homicide rate and assaults in the city remained well above the national average, and the tension between progress and violence created a backdrop that made what happened with Jeremy Asbury all the more alarming. Born on December 21st, 1991, Asbury grew up in North Carolina, where he developed ambitions that reached beyond his environment. Adopting the rap name Really Remy, he tried to reinvent himself as a musician determined to turn hardship into success. Through streaming platforms, local performances, and social media, he cultivated an image of grit and resilience, a man fighting for recognition through music. To his followers, he was an underdog artist with a chance to break through. To others, however, his music and behavior reflected an unstable and volatile figure whose struggles with violence and paranoia were never far from the surface. The first documented sign of serious trouble came in July 2015 in Fayetteville. According to police reports, Asbury offered a homeless woman a ride, then allegedly took her to a wooded area, held her at gunpoint, and forced himself on her. The victim claimed he struck her with the weapon, robbed her of her possessions, and abandoned her. The charges brought against him included first-degree kidnapping, sexual assault, and assault with a deadly weapon. But in early 2016, the case collapsed after prosecutors were unable to locate the victim, leaving the allegations unresolved. With a dismissal, Asbury walked free, but for many, the accusations foreshadowed the violent path he was already on. Despite the case being dropped, Asbury attempted to reinvent himself publicly. By 2016, local media and community leaders framed him as a redemption story. He appeared at events tied to organizations like the NAACP, spoke about turning his life around, and used his rap persona to craft an image of survival and ambition. Yet the redemption was shallow. His lyrics referenced betrayal and enemies, mirroring his volatile personal life. Over the next several years, his record grew. In 2017, Asbury was arrested in Mecklenburg County for armed robbery. That arrest marked the beginning of repeated charges: illegal possession of firearms, assault on women, assault with a deadly weapon, strangulation, and communicating threats. By 2021, his rap sheet carried multiple felonies and misdemeanors, yet many cases ended with light sentences or probation. To some, this showed systemic leniency in dealing with repeat violent offenders. To others, it was evidence of a man spiraling out of control, trapped in cycles of aggression and instability. His erratic live streams often showed paranoia, anger, and warnings directed at supposed enemies, offering a glimpse of mind unraveling. The most chilling chapter of his life, however, began on the evening of August 29, 2023. That night, a 47-year-old woman, referred to here as Amy Anderson, was finishing her shift near Beatty's Ford Road. She had never met Asbury before. As she prepared to leave, he approached her, propositioning her for sex in exchange for money. She refused. Her attention was briefly diverted when she helped an elderly woman struggling with a walker across the street. But when she returned, Asbury confronted her again, this time with violence. He struck Anderson, knocking her to the ground. She resisted fiercely, scrambling toward the safety of her workplace parking lot. For a moment, she thought she had escaped. Then Asbury reappeared with a gun, pressing it against her head. A desperate struggle followed, Anderson clawing at the weapon, trying to survive. But Asbury overpowered her, striking her again and forcing her into his vehicle. She made one last attempt to break free by unlocking the door and sliding across the seat, but he climbed in after her and delivered another blow to her head. Dazed and injured, she was taken captive. The hours that followed were sheer terror. Asbury drove her first to the back of a Dollar General store. There, she said, the first assault occurred. Attempts to flee only brought more violence. He beat her, forced her back under his control, and continued his assault. The nightmare escalated when he took her to his home on Columbus Circle. Inside that residence, Anderson endured repeated assaults throughout the night. She later described a scene of humiliation, degradation, and fear that lasted until dawn. Her body bore bruises and injuries consistent with the brutality she recounted, yet her determination to survive never faded. By morning, she managed to escape, rushing to a hospital where she reported what had happened. Doctors documented her injuries, and forensic evidence was collected. Her account led authorities directly to Asbury's doorstep. By the afternoon of August 29th, Charlotte police converged on his home. What awaited them was not a quiet arrest, but a barricade situation that would soon play out live before thousands. Inside the house, Asbury was armed and refused to surrender. More disturbingly, he had his child with him. As officers attempted negotiation, Asbury opened Facebook Live, broadcasting his threats and defiance in real time. Viewers watched as he ranted about betrayal, enemies, and his refusal to be taken alive. The live stream was both shocking and heartbreaking. It was a digital manifestation of a man unraveling, unwilling to accept accountability, using his final moments to create chaos.
This is my last live. Might be the last time y'all see me alive. Kid in the house. Police got my house surrounded. I wish I was playing right now, but this is very serious matter. They stopped with the intercom and stuff outside because I told them to chill. Waiting on somebody to come pick my child up right now. I want to thank everybody for all the support, and I don't really have too much more to say. Thank you. All my ops and stuff, I wish you the best of luck. But so you see, I'm not playing. Hold on, there's one right over there in the cut. You can't see him. Lawrence, please hurry up and get here so you can get my child, bro. Just hurry up so you can come get my child. And that's all I ask. I'm not trying to fight. I'm not trying to run. Lawrence, just come on, bro. I'm ready to get this over with. All my supporters, fans, I love y'all. Damn, I wish this was a joke right now. They got my whole fucking house surrounded, bro. It's over with. It's over.
For the officers outside, the situation was dire. They had to balance the safety of the child with the escalating danger of an armed, unstable man on the brink. Negotiations failed. Hours later, gunfire erupted. When it ended, Jeremy Asbury was dead. His child, though traumatized, was rescued unharmed. News of his death quickly spread across Charlotte and beyond. Media outlets highlighted the disturbing sequence of events. The abduction, the sexual assault, the hostage situation, the live stream, and the standoff that ended in suicide. For many, it was a tragic yet inevitable outcome of a man whose violent tendencies had been visible for years but never effectively addressed. In the aftermath, the case raised urgent questions. How could a man with such a violent history repeatedly escape long prison sentences? Did the justice system fail in holding him accountable before his crimes escalated? And what responsibility does social media bear when platforms allow individuals to broadcast violence and threats in real time? For Amy Anderson, survival meant carrying the physical and emotional scars of that night. She had shown extraordinary strength, fighting to escape, enduring brutality, and ultimately finding the courage to come forward. Her testimony not only exposed the crimes of Asbury, but also underscored the resilience of survivors who refused to remain silent. For Charlotte, the case was another painful reminder of the city's struggle with violent crime. While the financial district and cultural boom continued to define its growth, the story of Jeremy Asbury cast light on deeper issues. Cycles of violence, systemic failures, and the thin line between redemption narratives and dangerous realities. Jeremy Asbury's story is one of contradictions. To some, he was a man chasing dreams through rap music, a figure who claimed to want change. To others, he was a violent offender who left behind a trail of pain and fear. In the end, his legacy was sealed not by the music he made, but by the crimes he committed and the chaos of his final hours. And so, the case of Jeremy Asbury remains a disturbing reflection of the complexities within true crime. It raises the same difficult question that echoes across countless cases of violence, tragedy, and lost potential. How do we stop individuals with long histories of harm before they inflict irreversible damage? How many warnings are ignored before a story ends in bloodshed? And when the cameras fade and the headlines move on, what lessons are really learned? Inside the house on Columbus Circle, Amy Anderson fought to leave traces of her ordeal behind. She pressed bloody fingerprints against walls and windows, hoping investigators would later find undeniable proof of what she had endured. Jeremy Keith Asbury, however, led her deeper into the residence. Passing a room decorated for a child, Anderson's fear grew sharper. This was not just a home of her attacker, but also the environment of a little girl. In a sparsely furnished bedroom, she was held captive through the night. Anderson later described repeated assaults that stretched into the early morning hours. Asbury kept her physically pinned, one arm wrapped around her waist, their legs locked together, his gun never far from reach. Escape was impossible. The long night seemed endless. With sunrise, Anderson clung to prayer, pleading for her life. When she told Asbury she needed to get home to her children, he dismissed her tears and ignored her desperation. Instead, he assaulted her again, afterward telling her she was beautiful, claiming he loved her, even insisting he wanted her to carry his child. The words, so out of step with the violence, deepened her horror. At last, he allowed her to shower. Anderson only pretended, deliberately preserving his DNA evidence on her body, while smearing more bloody prints across the bathroom to leave behind further proof. Before releasing her, he gave her Pedialyte to drink, slipped shoes onto her bare feet, and walked her outside, driving her back toward Beatty's Ford Road, the same area where the nightmare began. He appeared calm. Amy noticed her blood still streaked across the passenger seat and door panel. As he dropped her off, Asbury picked up a broken piece of his glasses from the car floor before driving away. Once free, Anderson wasted no time. She phoned her sister, rushed to the hospital, and immediately underwent a sexual assault examination. Detectives were notified, and she later accompanied them back to Asbury's home, pointing out where she had intentionally left bloodstains and other evidence. Her courage and foresight gave investigators a strong foundation to move forward. Felony charges were swiftly filed, and a warrant was issued for Jeremy Keith Asbury's arrest. By the next morning, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department had mobilized. On Tuesday, August 29th, 2023, mere hours after Amy's report, detectives secured warrants. The charges included serious felony sexual assault, and officers knew time was critical. Jeremy was no stranger to violent arrests, and they had to act quickly before he fled or harmed someone else. Around 8 a.m., police units arrived at the Columbus Circle residence. Their goal was a controlled arrest, but what awaited them escalated into a far more volatile crisis. Rather than surrendering, Asbury barricaded himself inside. Soon, flashing police lights and tactical vehicles lined the neighborhood as officers set up a perimeter. What began as an arrest attempt quickly transformed into a tense standoff that gripped the community. Specially trained negotiators joined the scene, attempting contact through phone calls and loudspeakers. Officers urged Asbury to come out peacefully. They even involved relatives, hoping a familiar voice might convince him to surrender. A local community organization also intervened, underscoring the determination to resolve the situation without bloodshed. Still, Jeremy refused. His silence, broken only by a moment of defiance, stretched into hours, ratcheting up the tension. Midway through the standoff, he turned to social media. Activating Facebook Live, Jeremy streamed his final hours to the world. Viewers watched in shock as he sat inside his barricaded home, speaking into the camera with a chilling calmness. "This my last live. Might be the last time you'll see me alive. The police got my house. I wish I was playing right now, but this is very serious." His words confirmed officers' deepest fears. He was preparing for a violent end. In the broadcast, Jeremy pleaded with a family member named Lawrence to come quickly to take custody of his child, who remained trapped inside with him. "Lawrence, please hurry up and get here so you can get my child. That's all I ask. Not trying to fight, not trying to run. Just come on, bro, ready to get this over with." The live stream was a disturbing mixture of paranoia, resignation, and twisted gratitude. He thanked his supporters, spoke to perceived enemies, and ended with a chilling statement. "It's over with. This might be the last time you'll see me." To those watching, it was a digital suicide note. To the police, it was confirmation that time was running out for both Asbury and his child. SWAT units fully engaged, balancing negotiations with tactical planning. The safety of the child was paramount. Every passing minute raised the risk of tragedy. By early afternoon, nearly 6 tense hours had passed. Then, at approximately 2 p.m., the sound everyone feared pierced the air, a gunshot inside the house. SWAT officers breached the barricade immediately. Inside, they found Jeremy Keith Asbury with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A firearm lay nearby. Medics rushed him to the hospital, but the injury proved fatal. Before long, news broke. The 31-year-old rapper known as Really Remy was dead. His child, though physically unharmed, was rescued and placed in protective care. The standoff was over, but the devastation it left behind was enormous. Residents of Charlotte were stunned. For hours, they had watched events unfold on live television and social media. The image of Jeremy's final broadcast lingered, an unfiltered glimpse into the unraveling of man consumed by violence, paranoia, and despair. For Amy Anderson, survival marked only the beginning of a grueling journey. She had endured unspeakable violence, bravely left behind crucial evidence, and lived through a nightmare few could imagine. Yet her attacker would never stand trial, never face cross-examination, never be held legally accountable. Jeremy's death denied her the chance to confront him in court, leaving her with scars both physical and emotional. Advocates in Charlotte quickly rallied around her. Local organizations offered counseling and support, pointing out the broader implications of her ordeal. Amy's case highlighted the extreme vulnerability of women experiencing homelessness or instability. Community leaders voiced outrage, insisting that if she had access to stable housing and safety, she might never have crossed paths with Asbury in such circumstances. Critics also noted that systemic failures extended to Jeremy himself. Years of violent arrests, untreated mental health struggles, and lenient sentences had created a cycle that spiraled until it ended in tragedy. Observers pointed out the haunting parallels to his 2015 case in Fayetteville. In that earlier incident, the allegations bore chilling similarity. A homeless woman, a weapon, and a night of terror. Yet the charges were dismissed when prosecutors failed to reach the victim. Jeremy walked free, unpunished. That dismissal now appeared as a glaring warning, one ignored until nearly the same crime played out years later. For many, it was evidence that the justice system had failed twice. First by not protecting the earlier victim, and again by leaving the door open for history to repeat itself. For those who had once believed in his so-called redemption story, the reality was devastating. Local headlines had once praised Jeremy for trying to rebuild his life through music and community engagement. But the darker truth could no longer be denied. His violent tendencies had never been addressed, and opportunities for intervention had been squandered. The haunting broadcast of his final Facebook Live only amplified the devastation. Thousands had tuned in, watching him thank supporters, curse enemies, and foreshadow his death. To some, it was voyeurism. To others, it was a tragic glimpse into a man unraveling before the world's eyes. For Amy Anderson and her advocates, it was confirmation that he chose spectacle over accountability, ensuring she would never see justice in court. In the days after, Charlotte residents wrestled with a complex mix of emotions. Relief that he could no longer harm anyone. Anger that his death meant justice was denied. Grief for the trauma endured by Amy and the child who lived in his home. The tragedy underscored the dangerous intersection of violence, homelessness, untreated mental health issues, and systemic neglect. Jeremy Keith Asbury's story ended in blood and despair, but the questions his life raised remain. How many opportunities to intervene were missed? Could this tragedy have been prevented if earlier allegations had been pursued more aggressively? If the justice system had taken a stronger stance, would Amy Anderson have been spared? What is clear is that the people left behind, Amy, her family, the child in his home, and the community that witnessed it, will carry the weight of that day far longer than the 6-hour standoff lasted. Thank you for watching this story on True Crimes Venue. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into cases that reveal not just crime, but the systems and failures surrounding them. Until next time, take care and stay safe.